An ex-soldier sought a final goodbye with his dog in court, but what unfolded left everyone stunned. The morning sun cast long shadows through the courthouse windows as former Army Sergeant James Taylor adjusted his tie for the 100th time. His fingers, calloused from years of military service, trembled slightly as they smoothed down the dark blue fabric. The Philadelphia County Courthouse's marble halls seemed to amplify every footstep, every whispered conversation, making his already racing heart beat even faster. Beside him sat Max, a 7-year-old Belgian Malinois with intelligent amber eyes and a distinguished gray muzzle. The military working dog's posture remained perfect despite the early hour, his attention never wavering from his handler. Together, they had survived 3 tours in Afghanistan, detecting countless IEDs and saving dozens of lives. Now, they faced a different kind of battle, one fought with legal documents instead of bullets. "It'll be okay, boy," Taylor whispered, scratching behind Max's ears. The dog leaned into his touch, a gesture that brought both comfort and pain. This could be one of their last moments together. The military had decided to retire Max due to a minor hip condition, but instead of allowing Taylor to adopt him as was common practice, they had received a competing claim from a private military contractor, Sentinel Security Solutions. The company argued they had prior rights to Max through a complex series of contracts and acquisitions of the kennel that had initially trained him. Taylor's lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, approached with a stack of papers tucked under her arm. Her face showed the strain of preparing for this hearing, but her voice remained steady. "Ready, Sergeant?" "As I'll ever be," Taylor replied, standing. At 34, he felt decades older than his years. The injuries he'd sustained in his final tour, a badly healed broken leg and recurring headaches from a close call with an explosion, seemed to weigh heavier today. Inside courtroom 4B, Taylor took his place at the defendant's table. Max settled at his feet, the picture of military discipline. The gallery behind them filled quickly, several of Taylor's former unit members, local veterans, and even a few reporters drawn by the human interest angle of the story. Judge Catherine Henderson entered, her reputation for fairness preceding her. As the proceedings began, Taylor's mind drifted to the day he'd first met Max 5 years ago. The Afghan sun had been merciless, the air thick with dust and tension. Max, then a young dog fresh from training, had locked eyes with Taylor and something just clicked. Their trainer had laughed, saying he'd never seen Max take to someone so quickly. Within weeks, they were inseparable, developing the kind of partnership that couldn't be taught, only earned through shared experiences, trust, and mutual respect. Sarah's opening statement brought Taylor back to the present. She eloquently detailed their service record: 47 confirmed IED detections, 12 successful combat missions, and 3 life-saving interventions where Max had detected enemy combatants before they could ambush American troops. The Sentinel lawyer, Richard Cooper, painted a different picture. He spoke of proprietary training techniques, significant financial investments, and complex contractual obligations. His words were precise, calculated, and somehow made their relationship sound like nothing more than a business arrangement. As Cooper continued his arguments, Taylor noticed something change in Max's demeanor. The dog's ears twitched forward, his nose working overtime. Years of working together had taught Taylor to trust these subtle signals. Something was wrong. Max's low growl was barely audible at first, but it quickly gained intensity. Taylor placed a calming hand on his back, but the dog remained rigid, his attention fixed on a point near the back of the courtroom. "Order," Judge Henderson called, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Sergeant Taylor, please control your dog." "Ma'am, something's wrong," Taylor said, rising to his feet. "Max doesn't react like this without cause." The courtroom doors burst open before he could finish his sentence. 3 men in dark clothing entered, their movements precise and practiced. Taylor's combat instincts screamed danger even before he spotted the telltale bulge of concealed weapons. "Everybody down," Taylor shouted, his voice carrying the authority of his military training. He pulled Sarah down behind the heavy wooden table just as the first shot rang out. Chaos erupted. Screams filled the air as people scrambled for cover. The court security officer reached for his weapon but took a grazing shot to the shoulder, forcing him to seek cover. Max's training kicked in instantly. He launched himself at the nearest attacker, latching onto the man's arm with precise efficiency. The weapon clattered to the floor as man and dog went down in a controlled tangle of limbs and snarls. Taylor didn't hesitate. He vaulted over the table, his old injuries forgotten in the surge of adrenaline. His body remembered the countless hours of close-quarter combat training as he engaged the second attacker, driving his shoulder into the man's midsection and taking him to the ground. The third assailant turned his weapon toward Taylor, but Max had already released his first target and was charging forward. The dog's unexpected intervention gave Taylor the opening he needed. He rolled away from his subdued opponent and grabbed the fallen security officer's weapon. "Drop it," Taylor commanded, his aim steady despite the chaos. "Down on the ground now." The remaining attacker's eyes darted between Taylor and Max, calculating his odds. Max's threatening growl seemed to help him make up his mind. The weapon clattered to the floor, and he slowly raised his hands. Court security and police officers flooded the room moments later, securing the scene and the attackers. As the adrenaline faded, Taylor's leg began to throb, but he couldn't take his eyes off Max. The dog had returned to his side, alert but calm, as if they had just completed another routine mission. Sarah emerged from behind the table, shaken but unharmed. "My God," she whispered, surveying the scene. "They could have killed someone." Judge Henderson, who had been quickly evacuated by security, returned to the courtroom once it was secured. Her face was pale but composed as she surveyed the aftermath. "I believe we need to understand exactly what just happened here before we proceed with anything else." The investigation moved quickly. The attackers were identified as mercenaries hired by a rival security firm that had been trying to acquire Sentinel's military dog training program. They had planned to create chaos in the courtroom, grab Max in the confusion, and use him to reverse engineer Sentinel's training methods. What they hadn't counted on was the unshakable bond between a soldier and his dog. The revelation of the attempted theft cast the entire custody dispute in a new light. Sentinel's lawyers huddled with their clients in intense discussion as evidence mounted that someone within their organization might have leaked information about Max's court date. 2 days later, when the hearing resumed under heightened security, Cooper approached the bench with a new motion. Sentinel was withdrawing their claim to Max. Furthermore, they were launching a full internal investigation into the security breach and offering to cover all of Taylor's legal expenses. Judge Henderson made it official with a swift bang of her gavel. "In light of recent events and the withdrawal of the competing claim, I hereby grant full custody of the military working dog designated as Max to Sergeant James Taylor, with gratitude for their service both in and out of this courtroom." The gallery erupted in applause. Taylor knelt beside Max, wrapping his arms around the dog's neck. Max's tail wagged as he pressed his head against Taylor's chest, and for a moment, they were back in Afghanistan, celebrating another successful mission. "Let's go home, boy," Taylor whispered, his voice thick with emotion. The story of the courthouse incident made national news, not just for the dramatic events, but for what it revealed about the deep bonds formed between military working dogs and their handlers. Max and Taylor's partnership became a symbol of loyalty, trust, and the extraordinary capabilities of these four-legged heroes. In the months that followed, Taylor and Max settled into civilian life together. They moved to a small house in rural Pennsylvania with a large fenced yard where Max could patrol to his heart's content. Taylor found work as a K-9 training consultant, using his experience to help law enforcement agencies improve their programs. Max's hip condition, while requiring some management, didn't stop him from enjoying his retirement. He took daily walks with Taylor, played with the neighborhood kids, under careful supervision, and maintained his habit of sleeping at the foot of Taylor's bed, always alert for any sign of danger. The nightmares that had plagued Taylor since his return from Afghanistan began to fade. Having Max there, a constant reminder of their shared strength and resilience, helped him process the trauma they'd both endured. They healed together, two warriors finding peace in the quiet moments between sunset and sunrise. 1 year after the courthouse incident, Taylor received a call from Sarah. She had been working with veterans advocacy groups to strengthen the laws regarding military working dog adoptions. A new bill was being introduced in Congress, dubbed Max's Law, which would give priority adoption rights to handlers of retiring military working dogs. Taylor was invited to testify before a congressional committee, with Max by his side. As they stood before the lawmakers, Taylor shared their story, not just of the courthouse drama, but of countless nights in the desert, of trust forged in the heat of battle, and of a bond that transcended the ordinary boundaries between human and animal. Max isn't just a military asset. Taylor concluded his testimony, his hand resting on Max's head. He's a soldier, a hero, and my best friend. Every handler and dog team develops a connection that goes beyond training. It's a partnership built on absolute trust and understanding. When you separate these teams, you're not just reassigning equipment. You're breaking a bond that saves lives and helps both handlers and dogs cope with the trauma of war. The law passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, ensuring that future handlers wouldn't have to fight the same battle Taylor and Max had faced. On quiet evenings, Taylor often sat on his back porch, watching Max patrol the yard with the same dedication he'd shown in Afghanistan. The dog's muzzle was a little grayer now, his gait slightly stiffer, but his eyes remained bright and alert. Sometimes, Max would pause in his rounds to look back at Taylor, as if making sure his handler was still there, still safe. In those moments, Taylor would remember the chaos of the courthouse, the years of service, and all the times Max had saved his life. Not just from physical dangers, but from the darkness that threatened to overwhelm him after returning home. He would think about how close they had come to being separated, and how their story had helped change the system for other handlers and their dogs. "Good boy, Max," he would say softly, and Max's tail would wag as he continued his patrol, guardian and friend, forever faithful. Their story became more than just a tale of courthouse drama or military service. It became a testament to the extraordinary relationships that can form between humans and animals, a reminder that some bonds are worth fighting for, and proof that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism come from following our instincts to protect those we love. As the sun set on another peaceful day, Taylor watched Max finally settle down beside his chair, their silent communication as clear as ever. They had faced war together, fought for their partnership in court, and now they would face whatever came next side by side. In the end, that was all either of them had ever wanted: the chance to stay together, to continue their mission of watching each other's backs, even if the battlefield had changed from desert sand to suburban streets. The courthouse incident had seemed like an ending, a final battle for their partnership. Instead, it had become a beginning, opening doors for other handlers and their dogs, and showing the world the true meaning of loyalty. For Taylor and Max, it was just another mission accomplished together, another obstacle overcome through trust, training, and the unshakable bond between a soldier and his dog. And as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Taylor knew with absolute certainty that no court ruling, no contract, and no amount of money could ever truly measure the value of what he and Max shared. Some partnerships are forged in fire, tested by time, and strengthened by adversity. Theirs was one of them, a bond that had not only survived the challenges thrown at them but had grown stronger with each test. Max sighed contentedly beside him, and Taylor smiled, knowing they were exactly where they were meant to be, together, watching each other's backs until the end of their days.